Hello everyone and welcome to this channel. My name is Tiago. I'm from Brazil and I'm a language learner, and today I'm here to practice a little bit of English, and I want you to be with me because today I'm going to talk about how languages, in fact, how is English taught here in Brazil. I think I can speak about it because I have some experience because I studied in a public school here in Brazil, and I know how it really works. In fact, it doesn't work, and I'm gonna tell you why. Um, I hope you guys can understand me because I will not add subtitles anymore because my app I used to use an app to add some subtitles, but it's it is not free anymore. It isn't free anymore. So I'm not gonna pay it to add subtitles, and I hope you guys understand me. Even though sometimes my English is kind of a rust, and sometimes I have some thick accent and some words, but in general, you guys can understand me. I hope so. So, I've just I have talked about this subject in other videos in Spanish. I've done some videos in Spanish, another one in French, where I spoke about this subject in general, and I was telling them that English is the mandatory language here in Brazil, foreign language, in fact. So, just like math, just like Portuguese, biology, we also study English in schools, public schools and private school as well, because it's in our school program. Usually, we study 8 years of English in the schools, but even so, we don't reach to speak this language. We don't speak it. We just learn some aspect of the language because the methodology is a mix of translation and grammar. Because the main goal to know the language is to, in fact, to study the structure, the grammatical structure of the language, and to accumulate, to gain knowledge about the vocabulary. Because I think the main goal to learn English is to be in touch with the literature and to know how to translate it. That's why in schools usually we don't focus in the spoken language. People don't really learn the language. So imagine you have to learn the grammar of a language that you don't speak. Sometimes, even not sometimes, most of the time, it's really tough and annoying to learn the grammar of your own language. In our case, Portuguese. Portuguese has a kind of complex grammar, just like Spanish, because there are a lot of exceptions, a lot of things to memorize. So usually here in Brazil, people don't like grammar that much. So when you have to be in touch with another language, I mean with English, people bring their bad perceptions of grammar and put it in English as well. That's why people don't like to study this language at all. And usually people are very bad at English. That's why here in Brazil, when they find that you can speak a language or English, they really get really excited when they hear that you can really express in this language, because normally it's just like math. We study English at schools just like we study math with a lot of rules. We have to memorize a lot of rules, A lot of things that we don't use in our daily basis. And in the last year, in high school, you have to learn the present perfect in English. So imagine you have to memorize, you have to know and memorize some verbs in their infinitive form, like speak. Then you have to learn in the past spoke and spoken. That's really tough, especially when you don't know how to use it, you know. And a lot of things people memorize just to do the texts, because you have a lot of tests to do, tests to do, and that's really annoying and tough. And usually people get really frustrated with English, and they don't want to learn it. They don't. All the time people say that it's very difficult. English is just like math, it's difficult. I don't want to study it, because in public schools in general, and also in private schools, with some exceptions, but usually the methodology is very traditional. You have contact with texts, and you have to translate it. You have to do a lot of exercises, grammar exercises, a lot of repetition to memorize those patterns. And these are things that we don't use in our daily basis, So people tend to think, why am I going to learn this thing if I'm not going to use? So younger people are learning English nowadays with games, because younger people, teenagers, usually they spend a lot of time on internet and they like games. And in those online games, they get in touch with people from all around the world, and usually the language is spoken there usually is English. So they get in touch with people that speak English, and that's why many people learn English this way. So it's normal nowadays. You find some younger people that can express in English, but older people, and not only older people, but people in general that don't like games, don't like international music, they don't tend to study this language. So if you arrive in Brazil speaking just in English, you're gonna have kind of not trouble, but you're gonna have some difficulty to have conversation here, because to find someone that truly speaks English is really hard. If you speak Spanish, it's easier. If you speak slowly, people tend to understand the general meaning, the general context of what you are speaking. So it's kind of easy if you speak Spanish. But English, maybe in major cities, bigger cities, you're gonna find here and there someone that can express themselves in English, but it's not normal here. People speak English, and that's a failure of our educational system, our school system. I don't know how to say that in English, but that's it. So English is just taught in the schools just because you have to learn. Because, for example, you're going to the university, you have to do some tests to get in the universities here in Brazil. And one of the subjects that you have to do some tests is English. So you need to know a little bit of English. In fact, here in Brazil, they give the option. Usually you can choose between English and Spanish. So there is something funny here in Brazil, because we studied the whole life, 8 years of English, but when you're going to do the test to the universities, to get in the universities, people choose Spanish, because at least you have a text, but you can read and understand the general context, even though you don't understand everything, but we understand more a text in Spanish than in English. So to answer the questions are easier. So people tend to do that. They don't study Spanish in schools, here in schools, but when they're going to submit the tests for to get in the university, they prefer to do the tests in Spanish. I myself, I've done this in the past. I did that in the past. I I chose Spanish because it was easier for me to read in Spanish and to answer the question in Spanish. And at that time, I haven't studied Spanish yet. I have just studied Spanish after that, many years after that. And that's it, guys. That's it for today. I hope you guys come in the next video and see you there.